You wake up, grab your coffee, and strap on your watch. It is a morning ritual so basic, so universally normal, that you do it entirely on autopilot. Whether it is a vintage mechanical piece handed down from your grandfather, a rugged tactical band, or the latest smartwatch vibrating with notifications, that little loop around your wrist feels like a natural extension of your body, a completely harmless accessory, a symbol of your routine, your schedule, your personal time. But the moment you badge in, step through those heavy yellow doors, and walk onto the concrete floor of a heavy industrial assembly line, the laws of reality brutally shift. In this environment, surrounded by screaming metal and high-voltage power, that innocent piece of glass and steel transforms into something else entirely. It becomes a silent, patient, and merciless trap. It becomes the absolute most dangerous thing you could possibly bring into the zone. If you are enjoying our channel, subscribe and turn on the little bell so you don't miss any content. It helps us a lot, and it's free. To understand why, we have to talk about the grand illusion of the modern factory. Today's manufacturing plants are designed to make you feel invincible. Before you even touch a tool, you are armored up. You are handed steel-toed boots that can withstand a crushing load, impact-resistant safety glasses built like bulletproof shields, cut-resistant Kevlar gloves, and high-visibility vests. You are wrapped in layers of protective gear mandated by a mountain of safety regulations. Because of all this armor, it is incredibly easy for a worker to slip into a false sense of absolute control. You feel like a modern knight. But control is a deadly illusion when you are standing inches away from a 50-horsepower electric motor driving an endless conveyor system, or a massive CNC lathe spinning a solid chunk of raw steel at 3,000 revolutions per minute. These machines do not possess empathy. They do not have sensors for human panic, and they certainly do not care about your lightning-fast reaction time. They operate on pure, blind, unstoppable rotational physics. They generate a level of torque that the human mind simply struggles to comprehend until it is violently demonstrated. The core of this invisible danger lies in a fundamental engineering concept known as the pinch point. A pinch point is any location where a moving part of a machine meets another moving part, or a stationary object, creating a zone of absolute destruction. Now, look at your bare wrist. Without a watch, your forearm is relatively smooth. It has a natural anatomical taper. If you accidentally brush against a moving rubber belt or a spinning metal spindle, you will likely get a nasty friction burn, a deep bruise, or maybe a sharp cut. Your nervous system will fire. Your instinct will violently pull your arm back in a fraction of a second, and your smooth skin might just slip free from the danger zone. You walk away injured, but you walk away. But the exact second you add a watch band to that equation, the physics of survival change instantly. You have just introduced a rigid, unyielding anchor point to your anatomy. You have given a blind, mindless machine a perfect handle to grab onto. Let me paint a picture for you. A scenario that plays out in industrial nightmares and hushed break room stories. It happens on a random Tuesday shift. The assembly line is running hot. Production quotas are incredibly tight, and a veteran operator is working near an automated multi-axis milling machine. The air smells like ozone and hot machine oil. He has done this exact repetitive motion 10,000 times before, without a single scratch. He reaches across a rapidly rotating drive shaft to grab a dropped hex wrench resting on the other side. It is a calculated risk, a tiny shortcut that saves maybe 3 seconds of walking around, but this time, fatigue sets in. He misjudges the clearance distance by a single solitary millimeter. The heavy metal clasp of his dive watch lightly scrapes against the spinning steel threads of the shaft. Out in the normal world, a scrape is just a scrape. It is an annoyance. On the factory floor, a scrape is an engagement. In less time than it takes your brain to process the sound, the metal threads catch the lip of that watch clasp. The machine does not hesitate. It does not slow down to investigate the sudden resistance. It instantly winds the band tight, locking it against the steel shaft with thousands of pounds of pulling force. And this is the exact horrifying moment the operator realizes his fatal mistake. He tries to pull his arm back, engaging every muscle in his body, but he is no longer fighting a machine. He is fighting the uncompromising laws of physics. The emergency stop button, the bright red switch, is only 2 feet away on the control panel, but with his arm pinned and being rapidly pulled forward, it might as well be on the moon. What happens in the next 3 seconds is a brutal, unforgiving masterclass in why the rules of the factory floor are written in blood. Because the real horror of this situation is not just that the machine caught the watch. The real, unspoken nightmare is what that specific type of watch does to the human arm when it violently refuses to break. And what comes next is a physical reality so grim, it is something the corporate safety manuals barely dare to describe. The human body is an absolute marvel of biology, but it was never designed to endure the tensile stress of industrial manufacturing. When a watch band is caught by a machine pulling at hundreds of pounds of force, one of two things must happen. Either the band breaks, or your anatomy gives way. Decades ago, a cheap leather strap or a flimsy metal pin might have snapped under the pressure, leaving you with a nasty bruise and a broken watch. But look at what we wear today. We strap aerospace-grade titanium, reinforced tactical nylon, and high-performance fluoroelastomer to our wrists. We buy smartwatches designed to survive mountain climbing, deep-sea diving, and extreme sports. We demand bands that will never ever break. And on the factory floor, that durability is exactly what seals your fate. Because when that indestructible nylon strap is caught in a lathe, it does not snap. It acts like a dull, incredibly tight blade. As the machine pulls, the band compresses the tissue, crushing blood vessels and nerves instantly. And if the machine continues to rotate before the emergency brakes engage, the force has to go somewhere. The physics dictate that the weakest link must fail. In this terrifying equation, the weakest link is your skin and the connective tissue underneath it. The resulting injury is a brutal physical reality that trauma surgeons know all too well. It is a permanent, life-altering event that takes seconds to happen and years of reconstructive surgery to barely fix, all because of a piece of technology designed to count your steps and read your text messages. Before we move to the final reality of the factory floor, let me ask you something. If you were a safety engineer watching these ultra-strong smartwatches flood the assembly lines, how would you convince a stubborn veteran to take off his expensive piece of tech? Leave me your opinion in the comments, because the way most plants handle this is built on hard, undeniable lessons. You see, most people think factory rules are just corporate micromanagement. They think safety manuals are written by lawyers in clean offices who have never touched a heavy wrench. But the rule about absolutely no jewelry, no rings, and no watches is entirely different. That rule was written by the men and women who had to hit the emergency stop button for their friends. It was written by the supervisors who had to deal with the aftermath. There is a deep, unspoken code among the true veterans of heavy industry. When you walk through those doors and step onto the concrete, you are no longer the one dictating the pace. You do not need to know what time it is, because the machine is the absolute master of time. The cadence of the massive motors, the rhythm of the conveyor belts, the violent cycle of the hydraulic press, that is the only clock that actually matters. Wearing a watch on the line is an act of sheer, dangerous ego. It is a toxic illusion that you are somehow separate from the brutal environment operating around you. But the heavy steel does not care about your ego. It does not care about how expensive your smartwatch is, how careful you think you are, or how many years of flawless experience you have under your belt. To the machine, you are just another temporary source of mechanical resistance, and it will overcome that resistance every single time. So, the next time you picture a factory worker heading to their grueling shift, understand exactly why their wrists are bare. They leave their watches, their wedding rings, and their vanity inside a cold tin locker before they ever step foot on the active floor. It is not blind obedience to a sterile corporate safety manual. It is a profound, silent respect for the unstoppable, crushing forces they work with every single day. It is the absolute understanding that time outside the factory is a personal luxury, but time inside the factory belongs entirely to the machine. And the only way to make sure you get to go home to your family and check the time again is to surrender it completely while you are standing on the line.